afternoon. Good afternoon, Peekskill. My name is Rainey, and I am the proud mayor of the great city of Peekskill, New York. And I am joined today on August 17, 2021, for our weekly update with our awesome city manager, Mr. Andy Stewart. Andy, good afternoon.
How are you, Mayor? It's really great to see you as always. We had a
Pleasure on this side as well. Everything is good. I'm healthy. I'm in shape, and I'm happy to be alive. So, as all of you know, we do a weekly update every week to give you a little bit of information on how the city of Peaceville is doing with COVID numbers and now that things have changed. We also include our vaccination percentages, and we've decided to continue giving you some information about what the city of Peaceville has going on, information that we've been asked to share from our colleagues or even other businesses and members of the community. But I'm happy to be here again, and we're going to start as we always do with the COVID numbers. And Andy, let us know what's going on.
already. So our numbers are going up in a good way and in a bad way. The good news first, the city hit 69.1 vaccination rate. 69.1% of the city population has had at least one COVID immunization shot. That puts us ahead of some places and behind others in Westchester, but it's nice to see that number coming up. So that's the good news about a number going up. The bad news about a number going up is our active case rate has always been going up the last couple of weeks. Just for a little history on that, back in January, we had 438 active cases. That number came down steadily to the point where in the beginning of July, we were down to just 7. Then that number started coming up again. By the end of July, we had 20. A week or so ago, we had 46. As of August 15th, or 2 days ago, the Westchester County Department of Health data dashboard is saying Peekskill has 53 active COVID cases, which means people who've tested positive in the last 2 weeks. So that number is coming up. We all know the Delta variant is surging, especially among unvaccinated people, but also vaccinated people can carry that danger, and they can get sick through breakthrough infections as well. So that's our data report on the COVID situation in the Peekskill.
Thank you, Andy. I'm glad you said that. I just want to remind people too. I know there's a lot of conversations online. The vaccine does not prevent you from getting COVID or from spreading COVID. So when you're vaccinated, if you're thinking that you're not going to have to take safety or necessary precautions because you're vaccinated, you are helping contribute to the spread. So just remember that the vaccine is to help protect your body if you are to contract it, but it does not prevent you from getting it or spreading it. So I encourage the people who have been vaccinated to still be cautious. Those of us who have not been vaccinated, still be cautious and be careful, and continue to wear your mask, continue to social distance, continue to keep your sanitizer close. But remember, the vaccine does not prevent you from getting the disease or spreading it. It just helps your body helps your immune system be a little bit more stronger towards the actual virus.
Yeah, it helps enormously. There's no doubt about it.
Right. All right. So thanks, Andy, once again. So there's a few things I wanted to mention on my end, so we can go back and forth. One of the first things I wanted to talk about was for those of you who may have missed the council meeting last night, please check it out. We had an awesome presentation from Dr. Mauricio, the school superintendent. There's just so much that the school's been doing in the last few years under his leadership and the staff and the PTO and different members of the actual school board, volunteers of the community. They've been doing so much for the youth in our education system. The federal government, the state government has been doing so much to help out. The presentation was amazing, so please take a moment to watch it. One of the things we discussed last night amongst the council was the MOU for an SRO in the city of Peekskill. Dr. Mauricio let us know that the majority of the families and the majority of the students actually in the high schools appreciate and are looking forward to continuing the SRO program. And for those of you who don't know, the SRO program is just an officer that's actually placed in the school district for safety of the children, the safety protocols that the actual police officer practices to ensure the safety of our children and staff during school hours. So I'm thankful that the community came together on that discussion. As many of you know, this came up as a highlight in the discussion with the police task force. And that discussion is still ongoing. So for those of you who are still interested in supporting or putting some thoughts into how the city can have a better relationship between our community and our police department, take a look at all of our Human Relations Commission's meetings. They're once a month. I believe it's the second Tuesday of every month, but we'll be sharing more than information later on. And we want to continue the conversation. But thanks to the community for approving and agreeing. And hopefully next week, the city council will do the same.
Yeah, just a note on that, Mayor. The school resource officer is definitely there to help keep people safe. It's also a great investment in building relationships. We want young people in particular to feel comfortable approaching a police officer, to know them by name and by face, and to be able to ask for services or help if they need them.
Hmm.
And so that's really it's one of the biggest benefits of that program. It's a huge investment on the part of the city, putting two full-time police officers on that program. They're
Yeah,
very, very beloved police officers in the school district. They always asking for them to come to special events and so on. We want the students to feel comfortable approaching the police.
absolutely. And that's the main goal. And we had the youth borough held the national night out last week at Pugsley Park, where the police were out there just engaging with the community. DJ, excuse me, Roy Escobar, also known as DJ Esco, was on the ones and twos playing the music, keeping the people dancing. There are plenty of vendors out there, Sun River Healthcare and so many others, PCL NAACP. But Miss McDonald from our youth borough, they organized a fantastic event, and it's just a way to help bridge the communication between our community and our police department. So a lot of work being done.
Just as a note, the youth bureau produces beautiful events and flyers. And if anybody's out there walking around the city, look at our bulletin boards that we have on the corner by the gazebo and the corner by Main Street and Restaurant Row, and also down by the railroad station. We have a volunteer who's posting the youth bureau flyers as well as other special events that are happening in the city. It's really wonderful to see. There's so many great things going on, whether it's music in the park, family movie night,
Hmm.
youth bureau events. There's just a lot going on.
That's right. So that's it on that one.
So we had a couple other policy issues that City Council discussed last night, which I thought might be worth touching on, where we're moving forward. One of them has to do with having a policy for accepting donations, where you can get the name of a beloved one who's passed away on a park bench. And part of that, we did an inventory of all the park benches we have along the riverfront and other parks. There's over 40 of them. And the city council is getting ready to approve a policy whereby you could contact the recreation department and have a plaque put on a bench for a donation that would help pay for the bench and its eventual replacement when it wears out. So,
Hmm.
and that goes for trees too. The trees are a little bit of a different topic because there's there's a lot of trees out there. We have some specimen trees that we need to replace. For example, the two big willows that were down by the boat launch were diseased and had to be removed several years ago. And we also have a policy for tree donations that the city council discussed. So
Right.
and we actually have a really outstanding tree donation that's in process from Manzer's Landscaping, which is really above and beyond anything individual that any one person would do, as far as memorializing a loved one with a plaque on a bench or a tree. But this is a proposal to donate the trees and the labor for installation for 11 trees going up North Division towards Monument Park, which is really overdue. It's an extraordinary contribution that Chappie Manzer is prepared to make in memory of his mother who passed away. And so we're doing a lot on trees right now, including looking for places to plant them and the empty tree pits in the city center and the surrounding streets.
Absolutely. Yeah, they gave a lot of praise to Chappie last night. He's been doing a lot, at least a lot behind the scenes in years before, but at least publicly, a lot of work in the community, especially during the pandemic. So, thanks again to Chappie, and looking forward to seeing that. Um, Speaking of that, we've also discussed last night, since we're talking about outside and outdoors, about the smoking ban in city parks to prevent secondhand smoke of any kind near the children in the playground. So just so the narrative doesn't get switched by the naysayers, it's not a target narrative. It's more so just to prevent children from having to deal with secondhand smoke of any kind. So it's from marijuana to tobacco, or it's the vapor. I think they're electric
E,
smokes. Yeah,
EV,
whatever they are. Yeah,
whatever, yeah.
any type of smoking. The council is going to discuss or put a resolution up for next Monday. The council is going to hopefully agree to prevent it from being um, permitted in our playground areas by our parks where our kids play at. So uh, we thank everybody that participated in the actual survey online. The survey is just, I think it's still up, but it's been up for a while. We had about, I want to say last time I saw it was like almost 500 people
Yeah,
participating and
we're
voted.
talking about the cannabis survey. It's up over 800, I believe.
800 now. Okay, good.
And,
So thank
yeah,
you to everybody who's,
that's still open for people essentially to register their opinion as to whether or not the city should accept the dispensaries
mhm,
for recreational marijuana,
right.
which is a policy issue the city council will need to revisit this fall.
Absolutely. So that's great. And yeah, so that's it for that one. And I do want to let the people know that the council also discussed our affordable housing ordinance. Went over the draft last night with Rose Noonan. Thank you so much, Rose Noonan, for your hard work, and Gene Friedman, and everyone else in the staff that helped organize or put together this draft. Um, we will be voting on it this Monday. This is just a stepping stone towards addressing the housing crisis that we have in Westchester, here in the city of Peekskill, New York. And they brought up some great opinions last night. And I do want to highlight Councilman Douglas's opinion on hopefully finding a way to have a preference for local residents to move into affordable housing when it's built in the city of Peekskill. We discuss affordable housing very often in the community, but when you build more affordable housing and you can't uh, have preference to your local residents and you don't address the needs that your residents are facing, you're building affordable housing. And like I said last night, we welcome people from all over the world to come to Peekskill to live. But if you're going to address the affordable housing crisis we had, then it would be smart to try to address the affordable housing crisis we have for our residents. So, but looking forward to moving forward with that and seeing how we can lead the county and trying to address the needs for the people in our community.
So to be clear, whenever we talk about changing a local law, there's a public hearing for that. And so
Hmm.
the next actions of the city council in this particular would be to review the draft law and send it for review by the planning board because it affects their work. And then eventually it comes back to the city council with the planning board's opinion on it, at which point the city council would set a public hearing date for the public to come out and speak specifically on that item before the city council would adopt a new law. And that applies also to our tree permit law that we're working on, and the smoking ban, for example, will be subject to a public hearing for that new local law prohibiting smoking in parks.
Absolutely, absolutely. So with that being said, there's a lot going on. There's some events coming up in the city of Peekskill. Um, some annual events that we always see coming up in the city of Peekskill. So just keep your eye open. The City Youth Borough is having a back to school event on August 26th. If anybody is interested in volunteering or finding a way to support this event, please reach out to our Youth Borough Director, Mrs. Tuesday McDonald, at tmcdonald@cityofpeekskill.com. She can give you information. The registration date deadline was yesterday. So if you haven't registered for this one, there'll be plenty other back to school drives in the city of Peekskill that you can get supplies for your children if you still need. But if you would like to support anyway, please do. The Peekskill City School District is hosting an immunization event Saturday, August 21st and Saturday, August 28th at the Parenting Center at the old Peekskill Firehouse right by the high school. So make sure you stop by, get some information on COVID, on vaccines, and keep our community safe. Keep our community safe. So that's all I have on my list for today. And do you have anything else?
Well, there's always a lot to talk about, but maybe we should take a quick look at the Facebook comments to see if we could address any questions.
Absolutely, absolutely. Let me pull it up too.
So I'm just going to go up to the top where I dropped in the standard message I put in there, basically asking for questions or comments with our email addresses if we're not able to address something. They're asking for your opinions from Mr. Landers on Governor Cuomo. If you'd like to speak to that. I don't know if you want to say anything about Cuomo's recent resignation.
Oh, I think it's sad. I think it's unfortunate that it happened. I think it's unfortunate that he is in this situation, and I think it's unfortunate that the people that he's you know um, worked with have had to, go through this experience. But it's a sad day for New York. He's done so much for the city of Peekskill. He was always a genuine soul to me. Um, I met Cuomo on an accident, which was funny. When I first took office, my first week in office, my first month in office, he actually called the city of Peekskill City Hall to congratulate me. And I never forget, this is how we became friends, because he called and I thought it was a prank when he told me that the governor was on the phone to talk to me. So I hung up the phone twice, thinking it was a prank. And then at a women's event, a women's month event in March, I saw him again and I approached him because I found out that I had asked Lizette was our clerk at the time. I'd asked Lizette if she could star 69 or get that recall that number. She told me that it was a number from Albany. So when I saw him at the event, at the Women's Appreciation Month event in March, all of the mayors that were there would go up and shake his hand and take a picture. And when I went up to him to shake his hand and take a picture, I just said, "Wait a second, did you call me in January of this year to congratulate me or something like that?" And he said, "Yeah, but I couldn't get through." And I said, "Well, I hung up, thought it was a prank." And he started laughing. And when he started laughing, everybody looked around to look at us, see what he's laughing at. And they got pictures of me and him when he was laughing. And from that moment on, we just developed somewhat of a friendship. So, to see him going through what he's going through, it hurts me. Um, you can never say enough for anyone, that deals with sexual harassment, whether a man or a woman. I wish people would stop just saying it's women, because it's men too. That gets on my nerves. But it's 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 um it's very unfortunate to see somebody like him, who was just leading this nation, um, during the pandemic, have to deal with something like this. So I continue to pray for his family and the families of those who are, hurt or resulted in any sort of mental or emotional pain during this crisis that he's somewhat created, I guess you can say. But it's very unfortunate, and I feel sad.
Yeah, it's a grave disappointment, I think, to many people. Um, there's comments just about the vaccines helping to keep people safe. Um, um, I don't understand this one from Mrs. Walker about the flight of illegals with COVID at the Westchester County Airport. I don't understand that one. I don't have any information on that. Um, the Westchester COVID numbers are available on the data dashboard for anybody to see, and that's what we're pulling from.
Okay.
There's a question about a retaining wall on Requa Street. If Mr. Landers could email me about that specific question. If there's a damage or hazardous situation there, we need to know about it. Yeah, some of these, maybe this is a question for the Peekskill School District related to diversity and inclusion training.
What does it say?
It says Peekskill teaching DIE or CRT. These are sort of approaches to to teaching about diversity. I think I'm not an expert in them, but I think that's a question for the school district. I don't know if
They said they DI. You said they're trying to spell diversity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's diversity and inclusion is basically a lot of school districts are working with approaches to making sure the students are fully engaged as far as understanding the history of groups of folks who have been suffer various kinds of disenfranchisement in U.S. history, and it's gotten controversial in some school districts, and some people are always debating curriculum issues. So the Dr. Miso didn't address that specifically last night, and so I don't have anything to say about that. That's really a question for him.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Landers, the official status regarding cannabis opt-in, opt-out, running out in the clock. The deadline if the city wanted to opt out of dispensaries, it would need to do so before December 31st.
Otherwise, we're already automatically in.
So it's a default, it's an opt-out and not an opt-in. And so the city council has several months. We are going to wrap up that survey. Anybody who wants to vote on it, they can find it on Facebook. And in the fall, we'll bring that to the city council. City council make a final determination regarding it. And either they'll opt out or they'll not opt out. There's definitely work to do on that. And I think the community is going to want to come out and hear more about that at the time. It will be, it's going to be one of the more well-publicized policy questions that the city council will address. Mrs. Wareham Gordon is asking about the status of downtown revitalization initiative projects that were awarded funding. So basically the status of those projects, there was $10 million worth of projects awarded in the city. The state hasn't actually started issuing funding contracts yet for those. That's our next step, is when we get notification from the state that they're ready to have a contract with specifically which agency we will be in contract with for the disbursement of the money for a particular project. The city's projects are Monument Park, Pugsley Park, the gazebo area, the work on the road down to the railroad station on Central Ave and stuff like that. Those are our city projects, but there's a bunch of private projects too, Paramount Theater and arts and so on. So the state has not started issuing contracts yet for those funding commitments. And as soon as we have that information, we'll let folks know. Let's see. So there's a question from Mr. Landers as to whether there's a policy of city employees with respect to the use of marijuana on the job. The policy is essentially that you cannot work impaired in any way, whether it's marijuana, alcohol, or any other substance, right. Because the safety of our personnel is paramount, and that of the public as well. Especially if you're operating a vehicle, you cannot work impaired, regardless of whether marijuana may be legal as a recreational. So is alcohol, but you can't kind of work drunk on the job, and you can't operate equipment impaired in any way.
It's a weird question.
Let's see. Just scanning through here.
Okay.
Mr. Landers is very active on this.
He always is.
He wants suggestions as to where he can go to get legal cannabis. There are surrounding states like Massachusetts that have already legalized. If he wants to go and check that out, I'm sure.
Is there any city-related questions that we can answer? I don't know where he. I don't know. We don't have like a marijuana map. All right. Well, that's it, Eddie. I'm going to sign out.
Yeah, I think we've covered it. Again, our email addresses are on the chat if anybody wants to follow up with a specific question.
Yes, please, people. Yeah, feel free to reach out. Rainey at cityofpeacekill.com, Stewart at cityofpeacekill.com. I also want to remind people, within the next couple of weeks, we're going to be doing another drive at the Peacekill Youth Road parking lot. We haven't solidified a date yet, but it's going to be sometime in September. Andy, I'm going to see you once I get a confirmation from the organization that we worked with before in Yorktown, Love in Action. Mm-hmm. The last one we did was phenomenal. They got a lot of great donations, and they help a lot of people out, whether you've just been transitioning from homelessness to your first apartment, or if you've been burned out of your home due to a fire, or if you're just, a single person, or even if you just need some help. They have really decent equipment, furniture, and things like that. They have great prices for people who just want to get some things that are new or even used for a decent price. So we'll be doing another one of those drives within the next couple of weeks, maybe within the next month or so, I should say, so I keep the community fully aware. So
I appreciate the work that everybody puts into those charitable endeavors. It's very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, listen, thanks, Andy. I appreciate you again. And to everybody who has some actual questions, especially for the ones that are actually relevant to Peekskill, thank you sincerely for tuning in. We'll be back here same time next week.
All right. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
All right.